I have been buying the kind of riskier growth names into weakness over a period of 8 weeks, and I've only just started that. So I'm kind of looking for this downside to layer into positions of stuff that I want to get into. So talk to me about where you are in the Bitcoin world right now, what you've been looking at, whether you've been investing in stuff yourself, or what's your attention there in Bitcoin?
Yeah, Bitcoin is, I think, in a really unique place. If you almost thought of maybe pre-2017, that was kind of the first season of Bitcoin. It went from completely unknown to at the doorstep of kind of initial mainstream adoption. And that frankly happened without many people paying attention. Politicians weren't paying attention. Regulators were kind of aware of it, but not really paying attention. Nation states didn't even know what Bitcoin was. Financial institutions were laughing at anyone who was, dabbling in it, all that type of stuff. I think 2017 was the start of maybe season 2. And you can go 2017 through 2020. And the way that I think about that is you get, some more mainstream awareness. You obviously get the 2017 bull market, you get the crash, you get a whole bunch of this stuff. And that was good for Bitcoin. But it was, maybe a continuation of season 1, just on steroids. So more 2020, I think, was the start of what I call season 3. And I think we're still in season 3, but there were some major changes, and they weren't obvious right out of the gate. So, you can look at simple things like the removal of career risk on Wall Street. Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, these folks coming out and saying, hey, I'm putting this in my portfolio. Portfolio managers across Wall Street now say, well, I can do it, and I'm not going to get fired if it doesn't work, because guess what? PTJ did it, right? And these other folks. So I think that was a big part of it. On top of that, I also think that the holder base is changing and their behaviors are changing. And so historically, people who were buying Bitcoin, they weren't macro traders. They weren't in tune with interest rates and kind of the whole financialization of the asset. Instead, they just treat it as a reserve asset, dollar cost averaged into it. And you can see, very non-correlated pretty much up until 2020. But now with about 2 years of data, you look and Bitcoin's been very correlated to NASDAQ and some of these other risk type assets since 2020. And so, if you use that kind of season analogy, season 3 brought in new players, but those new players don't act like the old players.
If this was a bear market, it would have been down 85%, but it's down 50% because we've got different buyers.
Yeah, and I just think about it when you're playing minor league baseball, there's some people who are good, some people who aren't. Now you're in the big leagues, right? And that's not a knock against season 1 and season 2 participants, because they're still here, right? That's the key piece. They didn't leave. You're just now bringing in, these quote unquote major league players, and they got a lot of money, right? They got a lot of experience. There's good and bad with their participation. So, November, December, they hear interest rates. What do? They start selling, right? And they're very much thinking about this as a risk asset. At the same time, to your point, drawdowns are probably tampered a little bit, and we're in pretty good shape. And I think that what we're doing is probably, I don't know, maybe this season lasts 2, maybe 3 years. So, maybe we're halfway through, heading into, towards the end of it. And this idea of season 4, I think, is when this becomes a full-blown consensus trade outside of Wall Street. Season 4 is when you now get public companies, nation states, large energy producers, etc. And I don't know if there's an end to season 4. Maybe at some point we can come up with, okay, there's season 5, 6, 7, whatever. But it feels like season 4 then is you have now infiltrated the major organizations and entities globally, and they all are convinced that the value's there. We see some of it happening now, Exxon, ConocoPhillips in the energy world, they're kind of doing some pilots. You've got El Salvador and the nation states. But when all of a sudden every sovereign wealth fund is of course we have this, right? Every public company is of course we have this. Central banks around the world are we would be dumb not to have it. That to me feels like that's a different season than the one we're in right now. But, you can see line of sight to it and it'll happen. It's just a question of when do we get there?
Hi, everyone. Just a very quick update from me. Look, the markets, I was expecting the markets to have found some sort of traction to the upside, and that failed. So my DMARC counts had failed. I haven't shared many of these with people, but I just thought the setup was getting concerning enough that I should put an update out over at Real Vision Daily Briefing. So what I've seen is that the market rejection of this recent rally has been fast and severe. What's really interesting is things like energy stocks have been slammed as well. Oil stopped going up, commodities are going down, the dollar's going up significantly, bond yields have stopped rising. If the Nasdaq breaks the recent low, it's forming a large head and shoulders top. You can see it on my Twitter feed where I've just written about this. If that is to go, then we've got a significant amount of downside to come in the coming weeks, and it feels like this rolls into the summer if that's the case, and we could have a sharp correlation of one sell-off where everything sells off at the same time and every position gets taken out and shot. A lot gets taken out, including the equity markets. Be really careful. We knew that the interest rate market was going to break something. Feels like it's going to break the equity market, and I think growth will follow, meaning that the growth of the economy will follow. I do think eventually this is the thing that's going to stop the bond market rising and the turnaround in yields that I've been looking for. So it's part of my big picture view. I didn't think we were going to get accelerated downside in equities. I thought something else would break first, whether it was going to be China or Japan, but it feels like it's potential to be equities. So look, there's no certainties out there. I don't know. I have been buying the kind of riskier growth names into weakness over a period of 8 weeks, and I've only just started that. So I'm kind of looking for this downside to layer into positions of stuff that I want to get into. I know a lot of you are interested in crypto. Obviously, crypto will get caught up in this and will go lower, but I think we're all used to that going up and down right now. I don't think it takes out the low, so I think it's just more noise within this wide sloppy range we've been in for the last year and a bit. But it could scare a few people. So look, just be careful out there. There's no certainties. I don't know. I'm not trying to sound the alarm. I'm just trying to sound the caution to say, look, be careful. Things are uglier than they seem, and the interest rate market, as ever, is going to break something right at the top of the chart of truth. Something always breaks, and it feels like it's going to be everybody's portfolio. Good luck.